Today, we're diving deep into the history of Lake Lanier, Georgia's biggest lake. But there's a twist. Beneath the surface lies a story of a cursed town filled with scary stories and a dark chapter in American history. So buckle up and get ready to learn all the dark stories of this supposedly haunted lake. Oscarville was an uninhabited village in Forsyth County, Georgia. It was mostly a black community. It is best known for being the center of a series of violent crimes and protests that were caused by racism in 1912, which drove out most of the black people who lived in Forsyth County. In 1950, when Lake Lanier was being built, the town's ruins were drowned. Its site was in the northeastern part of Forsyth County, close to the line with Hall County. Oscarville was created in the 1800s during the Reconstruction period after World War I. It was a farming town that was said to have been doing well for most of its history. There were some white people living there as well, but most of the people there were black, and many of them had seen their town grow economically faster than other black communities at the time. After fighting in the American Civil War, many of Oscarville's black people were no longer slaves. Around 1,100 people lived in Oscarville in 1911, and 58 of them owned land. There were 109 people who rented farms, and many more who worked as craftsmen in nearby places like Cumming. Other people who lived there worked as cotton hands. People from Oscarville were known for how well they took care of their chickens. Oscarville was burned down in 1912, and more than 1,000 people had to leave because they were accused of rape. Following the trials and executions, white men known as night riders took black families' land, churches, and schools and made them leave their houses. Following the evacuation of black families, Lake Lanier was constructed on top of the ruins. Lake Lanier is now a well-known landmark in Georgia. In the 1950s, the Buford Dam on the Chattahoochee River was built, flooding parts of Forsyth County, including Oscarville. This formed the lake. The Army Corps of Engineers took down some of the bigger buildings and trees in the area, but they left behind and flooded over many things, like the graveyard, the auto racing track, and the foundations of small buildings. A little-known fact about this lake is that a lot of people die every year in its deep, dark water. People have long thought that the lake is cursed, and that people should only go there at their own risk because of this number and the scary past of the area. Here's some of the incidents at Lake Lanier. The Lady of the Lake. In 1958, Delia Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts left a local dance together one night. When they stopped for gas, they chose to leave without paying. Due to their hasty choice, their car lost control while crossing a bridge over Lake Lanier, resulting in it veering off the road and plunging into the frigid depths below. The car was submerged in the depths of the lake for more than 30 years until it was found by officials. Unfortunately, both women lost their lives in the accident. As time passed, the tragedy transformed into a chilling legend, the Lady of the Lake, and it also adds to the list of Lake Lanier's dark history. The legend revolves around a ghostly figure, frequently depicted as a woman wearing a blue dress, which happened to be the same color as Susie Roberts' dress that evening. A sinister figure, often seen by the bridge without her hands, tries to tempt unsuspecting souls into meeting the same fate, a watery grave. She captures unsuspecting individuals who venture too close to the water's edge and pulls them beneath its surface. The disappearance of Kile Nash. Kile Nash went missing on January 5, 2015. According to his girlfriend, Jessica Sexton, Nash experienced symptoms of coughing, sneezing, and feeling unwell when he woke up at 4 a.m. that morning in their home in Buford, Georgia. Upon awakening a few hours later, Nash was no longer present. He left his truck, wallet, and cell phone behind. The home lacked a 9mm handgun. Family, friends, and authorities made every effort to uncover the truth about Nash's disappearance, even going so far as to offer a substantial reward of $50,000. A surveillance video from a nearby gas station was discovered, which had been recorded the night before his disappearance. In the video, Nash casually grabbed a few items while chatting with his girlfriend, but the recording didn't reveal anything out of the ordinary. Nash's body was discovered in Lake Lanier on the evening of February 8, 2015, by a fisherman. He had on the exact same pajama pants and dark shirt as seen in the surveillance video. Despite finding a gunshot wound on his body, authorities concluded that his cause of death was drowning. Alan Nash expressed his satisfaction with his son's clarity of purpose after a month-long search. He had grasped the concept and was making progress towards his goal. He desired meaningful connections in life. Nash's motivation was not financial gain, but rather a commitment to doing things correctly. The death of Kile Glover. In July 2012, tragedy struck at Lake Lanier when 11-year-old Kile Glover lost his life in a jet ski accident involving Jeffrey Simon Hubbard. Glover and his friend were enjoying a ride on an inner tube, being pulled by a boat on the lake. Unfortunately, Hubbard accidentally crashed into the two children while driving his jet ski around the lake. Glover, the child of fashion stylist Tamika Raymond, was transported to Atlanta's Children's Health Care at Eagleston, but unfortunately passed away due to heart failure shortly after the accident. According to the Associated Press, Glover's mother, Raymond, who is Usher's ex-wife, has been advocating for the draining and cleaning of Lake Lanier. She believes that taking this action is not only necessary, but also a chance to pay tribute to those who have lost their lives and prevent future accidents. Hubbard was convicted in 2014 for multiple offenses, including homicide by vessel, reckless operation, and unlawful operation of personal watercraft. As a result, he received a 4-year prison sentence and 15 years of probation. Regrettably, this incident was not the only one of its kind on Lake Lanier, and sadly, it won't be the last. From 1994 to 2018, over 170 fatalities occurred due to boating accidents and drownings at Lake Lanier. Boat collisions plague the waters. Boating can be quite risky at Lake Lanier, particularly in the summer months. On June 17, 2012, shortly before midnight, a fishing boat collided with a pontoon boat, resulting in the tragic deaths of 2 boys. This incident is one in Lake Lanier's drowning history. The rescuers were able to locate the body of 9-year-old Jacob Prince without much delay. However, the search for 13-year-old Griffin Prince was made more difficult due to the presence of deep water and timber at the bottom of the lake. Jacob's mother and 2 other children were injured in the collision. Paul Bennett, the fisherman, faced charges of boating under the influence, reckless conduct, and failing to offer assistance following the incident. In a recent incident, a young girl suffered a broken leg when 2 boats collided on a lake in June 2023. She was promptly airlifted to a nearby hospital for treatment. Boating accidents occurred at Lake Lanier throughout the year, not just during the summer. In January 2013, a fishing boat crashed into a 4-person shell known as a quad. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but the 4 rowers experienced different levels of hypothermia due to the cold water of the lake. Reports indicate that the fishing boat operator accepted responsibility for the incident, acknowledging that he was not attentive and was unable to reverse in time to prevent the collision. The rowers were brought back to the boathouse by the fishing boat that had taken them out onto the lake. Electrocution of Thomas Milner. Thomas Milner, a 24-year-old man, was electrocuted on July 29, 2023, when he jumped off his family's dock into the lake. A family friend attempted to help Milner out of the water using a ladder, but unfortunately they were not successful. Neighbors came over in their boat, and someone quickly jumped into the water to lend a hand. The individual quickly experienced a sensation of burning, which they identified as an electric shock. They made their way to the shore, switched off the power box, and went back to rescue Milner from the water. Thomas survived the incident, but unfortunately passed away due to his injuries the following day while receiving medical care at the hospital. An electric shock drowning happens when an electrical current leaks into the surrounding waters, as explained by the Electrical Shock Drowning Prevention Association. Even a small amount of electrical current passing through the body can lead to muscle paralysis, making it impossible for swimmers to rescue themselves from the water. Usually, the electricity in the water comes from the wiring of the dock, marina, or boats that are connected to the marina or dock's power supply. Rape and murder of Mae Crow. On the morning of September 13, 1912, a white woman named Mae Crow was discovered unconscious in the woods outside Oscarville. Crow, who was either 18 or 19 years old and was a resident of the nearby community of Big Creek, suffered a brutal assault that resulted in rape and a severe head injury caused by a rock. Crow's body was discovered concealed beneath a heap of leaves, showing signs of significant damage and partial undressing. Despite being alive when she was found, Crow was in an unconscious state and barely breathing. Crow remained in a coma for 2 weeks before succumbing to her injuries. Many people believe that none of the individuals arrested for her attack had any involvement. Given the considerable amount of time that has passed and the absence of any surviving witnesses, it seems highly improbable that the true perpetrator will ever be identified. Still seen as one of the oldest true crime stories that ever happened in Lake Lanier. During that period, it was common for people to search nearby black communities when violent attacks were committed against white women in an attempt to find the alleged perpetrator. Searchers at the scene where Mae Crow's body was found had found a small pocket mirror. There were claims that the pocket mirror was owned by Ernest Knox, a 16-year-old black resident of nearby Cumming. Knox was apprehended at his residence and subjected to a simulated act of lynching, resulting in the extraction of a coerced confession. The white community became even more upset upon hearing about Crow's rape and Knox's subsequent arrest, which resulted in the formation of a mob outside the jailhouse where Knox was detained. To ensure Knox's survival until his trial, he was discreetly moved from the jail's back door to another detention facility in Atlanta. After Knox was arrested, 4 additional black residents were also taken into custody as alleged accomplices to the crime. Knox's cousin Oscar Daniel, age 18, Oscar Daniel's sister Jane Daniel, age 22, Jane Daniel's husband Rob Edwards, age 24, and another resident named Ed Collins were also involved in the alleged crime. Rob Edwards, a resident of Oscarville, was nicknamed Big Rob due to his notable size. During the trial, a large group of white vigilantes gathered outside the county courthouse with the alleged accomplices. The deputy tried to stop the mob from entering the courthouse, but the sheriff had already left for the day, saying he had no knowledge of the increasing crowd. Once they got into the cells, the mob brutally attacked Rob Edwards, using crowbars and even putting a noose around his neck. After shooting Rob Edwards, the mob proceeded to remove his body from the jailhouse and display it in the town square. This gruesome act attracted a significant number of onlookers. Members of the crowd also fired additional bullets into Edwards' remains. Oscar Daniel, 18, and Ernest Knox, 16, were convicted of the rape and murder of Mae Crow during the trial. Jane Daniels has been found not guilty of her charges. The trials of Daniels and Knox were both held and concluded in just 1 day. Newt Morris, the judge overseeing the trials, was also actively involved in the 1915 lynching of Leo Frank. Oscar Daniels and Ernest Knox were both given the death penalty by hanging, even though it was against state law back then. Due to the legal restrictions in Forsyth County, Judge Morris decided to conduct the hangings discreetly. The night prior to the executions, a group of arsonists set fire to the building for the visually impaired while leaving the gallows unaffected. The executions of Oscar Daniels and Ernest Knox attracted a significant number of onlookers, with an estimated audience of around 8,000 people. A piece of rope used in the hangings was stored in the minute book of court records until it caught the attention of civil rights protesters in 1987. It was around this time that the rope mysteriously disappeared. Since Lake Lanier's establishment, 500 individuals have lost their lives there, with almost 200 fatalities occurring since 1994. Approximately 11 million people visit its shores annually, which is comparable to the number of visitors to the Louvre. However, the lake's popularity does not account for the significant number of fatalities. Lake Allatoona, located 40 miles to the west, attracts a similar number of visitors annually, yet experiences significantly fewer fatalities. Typically, drownings or accidents involving motor vessels are to blame. There is no consistent pattern or forecast for the number of victims the reservoir will claim each year. Regrettably, a common thread among these deaths is the racial background of the victims. The lake is filled with various objects that pose a danger to navigation, making it difficult to maneuver through the water. Rescue operations can be quite risky due to the lake's poor visibility. However, there is an alternative explanation for the number of casualties. According to legend, there have been reports of supernatural and paranormal activities at Lake Lanier. Thank you for joining me today on this journey of Oscarville, Georgia and Lake Lanier. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments below what other historical mysteries you'd like to explore. Until next time, thanks for watching.